this film producer of this horror movie, which was objectively bad, what understood that it wasn't good enough to just scare you in one sense or another. Like Josh, you talked about the advent of using sound to actually invoke even more horror to the viewer, which makes the iconic movies like Exorcist and Omen to a lot of people, when objectively, when people, let's say in our generation, if we're going to be real, by the time we probably get to those movies, we have already seen objectively scarier things in commercials before we get to it. So it's hard to then continue. But what we end up hearing from the people who control the decisions is, no, that is a scary movie. You are going to be scared. So then you have to break it down. And Josh, I think you nail it in the sense of understanding the sense of sound, or Greg, how you've pointed out in the sense of doom and dread with Babadook, and the connection of a parent, even though I'm sure it was scary to non-parents. But going back to what I was pointing out with American Horror Story, the guy was like, it's not enough. People need to feel horror in themselves. They need to feel almost as if the character in the movie, which then would make them have a visceral reaction. In this case, because it's an American Horror Story, that's ultimately trying to kill anyone and everyone around you. Past that point, when you start breaking it down like that, it's actually pretty easy to understand why horror movies are very hard to get Oscars. Also, specifically breaking down the problem, normally, and this is part of the reason why I've always enjoyed shitty horror movies as well as shitty sci-fi movies, like the shittier the better. And what I mean is they're willing to do what these movies are actually supposed to do. A horror movie is by nature an avant-garde sort of approach to a subject. You are taking something that's very specific and you're trying to invoke an emotion that people only feel in a very specific amount of time. You can argue that you feel levels of love or comedy or anything like that throughout the rest of your day if you have a normal life. You can also argue that what is horrific to someone like, let's say, in a war-torn country is going to be a lot different than someone in a first world country where the worst thing they go through is traffic. So with that said, it's understandable that it needs to be sort of pushing the boundaries of what an idea is. So it's normally an avant-garde thing. Hollywood hates that. To be fair to Hollywood, everything, it's a business. So it's about making profit. So they hate going on a limb with an idea that's really out there. And also to the point that Greg made, the ability to convey the thought wasn't there normally to the level of the idea of the film producer or the writer or whomever was trying to bring forth the image of that horror. Normally it was wildly out of whack. So that was also problematic to get behind. Also, normally because of that, they got a smaller budget. So smaller budget means harder on the props, harder on the scenery, harder on getting the next thing, which is the talent, which actually is combined with the first idea too. It's hard for actors, considering that their job and is based off of profitability, and therefore to get more roles, they need to be in less problematic things. It's hard for them to get behind those ideas, at least in the in up until the most recent thing. I mean, iteration. So like last decade. Up until then, it was hard for these actors to get behind. Let's be real, because it had a high probability of that movie flopping. Their name gets attached to it, and all of a sudden their roles dry up, or they're at best doing kind of stuck in the role of doing really shitty genre-like movies to continue on. So I think with all that said, it leads to the biggest problem that every horror movie has, whether they're trying to be serious or not, to get to an Oscar, and why we don't see a lot of them. It's a very high bar to clear. You actually have to sort of set the trend and the standard. You have to really push the limit. And when you look at the iconic movies, it's not hard to actually understand what I'm saying. Jaws set the sharks standard in a genre. Night of the Living Dead, as we talked about, introduced zombies as a genre, which was widely replicated. Alien introduced intergalactic monster sort of approach to things that even included reimagining what we feel is intergalactic and looking within, understanding that our world is mostly water. We've only really explored 5% of it. So it's not hard to believe that what we haven't seen is worse than anything that's been above Nightmare on Elm Street, as we pointed out. Yeah, Dreams is definitely it, but I would argue that it really pushed the whole idea of how you can fuck with someone's mind and make that one of the scariest things. Blair Witch Project set the found footage genre. But then the funny part is if you have a little fun with it and you really like let it go, then and you understand what horror is and that's specific to the person, then you can argue things like The Graduate. That was scary as shit. The ending of it, when you break it down, is scary for a lot of different young adults who have gone through the same thing. Like, what the fuck am I going to do next? I really don't even know. I'm on a bus to somewhere. I don't even know where I'm going because that's literally indicative of my entire life right now. 12 Monkeys, about fate and time travel. What happens if you think you can change things? We can't. I can't see the clock. I changed the fucking view. Josh, I don't give a shit. Superhero movies. Gods are here. So far, are they on our side? Outbreak. Not stopping the global pandemic. Not like we can't fucking attach to that right now. Or things like even Body Snatchers, Identity. What is it? Who do you belong to? And what happens when you join the group?
I'll jump off. I'll just finish off on RaShaun. I think you make the exact point about why we want to put a different label on it, call it a psychological thriller, because for some reason we're uncomfortable saying it's a horror movie, right? Or we want, and that's true on both sides of that coin. Like the horror fans are like, nah, and then and the sort of more civilians are like, nah, right? Neither of us want to say it, but for whatever reason, Silence of the Lambs hits that, hits those Venn diagrams, right? Of where the two are totally crossing over each other, and you can sit there, you got horror movie, you've got, psychological thriller, and you've got that overlap all of a sudden that I can speak to from. I remember the emotional feeling of, as you say, that constant feeling of dread, Greg, that you were bringing up, that you knew Lecter was getting out before the end of that movie. You knew he was not going to be in that cage the whole time. And then even when he does break out, leading up to, it's Jim Pembroke, damn it. I really want a button that does that. We need a Jim Pembroke button. But I remember my palms sweating. I just remember when they get upstairs, right, and the SWAT crew is there, and they're like, putting in the mirror, and they're shooting the guy in the leg, and all that, trying to figure out what's going on. And they go in, and the guy's been crucified, and he's sitting there, he's been disemboweled. I just remember my palms sweating. I just remember that whole intensity. It's hard to recreate. It's impressive as hell to get that level of emotion out of a film, right? I'm just like, Jesus Christ, something's wrong. I didn't figure it out until the very last, so good on them, right? I've watched a lot of movies and usually can figure out the twist, but they had a little twist. They got by me for a minute or two.
Well, I mean, I bet another good example is Seven.
Right?
Like this is a gruesome, stomach churning fucking movie in a lot of places, and again it does give you a sense of dread because it's this serial killer who seems to be very methodical, 10 steps ahead of the police the entire way, and then when he does finally show up, it's like he just walks right in, and so it just keeps getting more and more unsettling as the movie goes. But is it a horror movie? Is it a psychological thriller? Is it just a cop drama, just well directed? Was that David Fincher?
That was David Fincher.
David Fincher, And so which one is it supposed to be? And then you've got Morgan Freeman and his monologues going on and his observations, like, where am I supposed to stand with this film? But horror or not, there is a real sense of dread there.
See, the funny part, once again, I did not feel that watching. I just felt entertainment. Like, yeah, they're fucked up things, but at no point was I scared of Kevin Spacey's character. What, if anything, if you want to argue what dread was, at least for me, I would say it's for the characters, because it was such good character development that I actually cared what happened to him. But at no point was I scared what could happen, versus like a Nightmare on Elm Street, to your point, going to sleep. It's like, this fucker could get me. Like, yeah, that was a movie, but it was also about dreams. So that's a little bit different. And once again, I know we're going to talk about, spoiler alert, this is going to be probably one of our topics, but like, what is really scary? To me, Arachnophobia is one of the scariest movies that's ever existed, because you can't tell me that you've never had some produce and a fucking spider didn't come out. So who's to say which one's gonna be the one that's gonna kill a town?
I know when I'm decorating my house and I've got my giant spider I'm going to put up. I'll send you the pictures, RaShaun.
Giant spider. Look, dude, I grew up going to camp. I worked in it was in New Hampshire, bro. Like, I've seen spiders that can take down bats. It's not that. What I'm saying is the fact that it could happen. Yeah. That's the scary part. Like, we have things shipping into our country every fucking second. Trillions of dollars. Not all of it really checked the way we think it is. It immediately goes to the consumer end. There's almost zero security between you and the next fucking sort of outbreak in this kind of category. So that's why it's scary to me. Like, literally, also, they outnumber us like 1,000 to 1 insects. It's only a matter of time before we come across the ones like, you know what? I'm fucking done with you guys. Like, there's so many different ways this realistically could happen. I'm not fucking worried about some asshole killing people based off of the Bible verses. That's probably already happening. So fucking what? Whatever. I'm not really caring about some asshole who's gonna like walk around and eat people's faces. If I don't see that coming, whatever. What's scary is how many guys did the other serial killer kill, and it took fucking Hannibal Lecter for the FBI to get to his house. That's what's scary. Like, that's the scary part.
Well, with that, it's a great launch to our month of October into what scares us, into the spooky, into the fun. As I say, it's October 1st today as we record this, so I'll be out in the front yard putting up the inflatables soon. And getting more inflatables, yes, because it's all about having the most inflatables in your yard to show how scary you are.
Indeed, we do not kink shame, as Josh goes on about his inflatables.
That's it. I got my inflatables. This is my holiday. This is my time of year. The kids love it. Dad gets free reign.
Scary. We're the last generation where you could give kids like fucking fruit and shit during Halloween.
There's that. Oh yeah.
Remember that? Remember in elementary school where finally they started sending out notices like, don't give out like anything that's on a wrapper. We're like, wait, that's a problem?
Oh yeah. Hey,
I was like, thank God, man. Done with the raisins. You asshole.
The box of raisins.
I will see you tomorrow.
Do I look like I need fiber?
I know. Come on. And like,
did you look like I need fiber?
It just pissed you off too when they gave you the fruit. I remember one dude handed out apples and we all just threw it on his fucking lawn. I mean, fuck you. Apples.
This is not the night to make a point. That's all we're saying. This is not the night.
Did I show up at your house for fucking apples? I don't think so, bitch.
Right?
Right? Here you go. Take it right back. All right.
I'll trade these apples for some eggs. I'll see you tomorrow.
I'm loving it. And we are heading on into that spooky month. So with that, let's just get your final thoughts here, Style Child. How we doing when we're going into this, the first of the Spook Fest weekends?
I think we're doing great. I think, this was also kind of a foray into just, what are our favorite horror films and favorite genre. And we got to explore that. So I think people are going to know what to expect from each of us, so it's going to be fun.
Loving it. RaShaun, Three Clubs, how you doing? What you got? Anything good going on this for the launch of the spooky weekend, or are you just gonna sip some pumpkin spice?
Probably not even that, man. But I'm not gonna lie, it's gonna take everything in me not to talk about Event Horizon for the next 4 months.
Oh, hey, I'm not gonna hold you back from that one. I mean,
I'm saying okay.
We can find a reason.
Yeah. I can't wedge it into every. I think I could talk about it in every episode. That movie just hits so many different levels for me, and in every October, because I love sci-fi and horror, it's just. It's so nice.
That is a special film, a very special film, and looking forward. I love it as a little teaser, as we call it in the industry, little teaser, giving it to our fans.
And shout out to Hellraiser because I'm with Greg. That movie set a lot of different stages. It gets looked at too hard at the gore, but when you start really breaking down what's going down, at least in the first two, before they really got crazy. One in space. I know people are thinking, RaShaun, you love sci-fi and horror. Why not 4? Fuck you. But the point being, it's like 1 and 2, some real good psychological shit right there when it breaks it down. It's like, oh my God, you're hitting me on like a biblical level of fate. Like it's not even about gore. Matter of fact, just kill me.